Hello again, welcome back to Asgard, and welcome back to Enigmatica 6 Expert. So since the last episode, I have been doing a bit of work outside of the pyramid. We're going to take a closer look at that in an upcoming episode, because we're going to be doing a little bit of a fun episode outside of the pyramid. That's not really progression related, just a short episode. But you will see these bees have converted all of this, except for this one little spot, into oil. It backed up shortly after the last episode. LPG backed up, plastic backed up, everything's sitting good. I did do a priority thing where the diesel that's coming in will focus on making lubricant until the lubricant's full, and then it'll start going and getting broken down to LPG. But that was after the fact. So once this starts running again, we should see lubricant go up substantially after that. And then I also set up a couple more tanks. We're going to be setting up some additional tanks this episode, but this one is stockpiling some vegetable oil for us. This one is stockpiling a little bit of liquid chorus. Now, this liquid chorus is actually getting split at the moment between this and going over here to make the crystallized chorus. But today we're going to wrap up kind of our last little bit of sort of miscellaneous automation. That's not to say that we'll be completely done, because there is some additional things that we're going to want to get automated here fairly soon. But this is our last little episode for right this second of just really random automation before we start moving into a couple bigger setups that I have planned. And I have gotten a bunch of things prepped. I've also got in here some additional connectors, and I've got some pipes. I've got an entity detector, a blaze spawner, a bit of seared bricks, because today we're going to be focusing on automating a few different things. Also, I did add to the sylph, I added shadow berries from the end. If you want to grab these really easily, you can just grab them for 1 amber to get that shadow berry. So I did get those set up in here, and you'll notice that I have been reorganizing this room a little bit since the last episode. I removed our sawmills for right now. But anyways, what we're going to be doing, first and foremost, we're actually going to be setting up 3 mixers, and each of these are going to have a clutch. And we're going to have the clutch put in one setting here, one setting here, one setting here. And then we're going to go ahead and bring up a cogwheel here, and then a shaft, and then we're going to bring up shaft, 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 and then just run these over. So that way they can start going into the clutch. And then let's go ahead and bring these down, and then we'll go ahead and just put on our cogs right here, and our mixers right there, and then the basins. Can't do it that way. We'll put them right here. And then we'll go ahead and put some redstone pin markings in there, there, and right there. And then we'll just go ahead and run in some connectors like that. Okay. And this will be the north side. We don't want the north side to connect here. And then we'll do con north, blaze south, and then this one will be end fiber. Because I'm going to have, I think, dedicated mixers for the different liquids. Technically, we could do it through the same thing. It's a little bit easier to do that. I mean, we could do it with XNet, realistically, but it is a bit easier to do that using, say, refined storage, you know, because you can manage your liquids through that. Pretty pipes, unfortunately, there's no way to really set up a recipe unless you do something with like redstone pipes. There's not really a way to have a recipe do items and fluids. And for us, it's easier to have a dedicated line. Plus, it's honestly a little bit more effective. Generally, if you can have a dedicated line, it's just as good, if not better, in terms of pure speed, as having you know, multiple things through the same system. So we're actually going to be doing dedicated lines for these 3. Now, this XNet line, we're going to go ahead. I'm going to have to get some more pipes, possibly, for this. I do not want you to connect to the north side. Once again, And I'm actually going to go ahead and just connect this up. It's a little bit more cable running, but I am going to connect this up to the Pneumaticraft system just because it handles more of our fluids, really. So give me a second to run these cables over. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and put a connector in here, connector in here. This one is con in blaze S. We're going to call this con in blaze S. And then this one's going to be disconnected on the north side once again, and we're going to call this end fiber. Alright, and then we've got those all connected up. Okay, so now what we're going to do is, let's pop over to the Pneumaticraft area. For the, con in blaze S, just bear in mind it's going to be the reverse. So in this case, con in, which is on the north side of the cable, would be the south connector. So just kind of bear that in mind. But let's go ahead. I'm going to grab this connector here, which is for the upgrade matrices, and it's carrying water. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to put that also onto the con in blaze S line, because I want it to feed water over to this mixer. Now technically we do have this mixer right over here. Well, the only thing is, if we make concrete, something I'm not 100% sure about is this does 500 millibuckets at once, and since we're making liquid into liquid, will this work okay? Let's try it out. So if we did clay, gravel, slag, slag, how does it handle that? Okay, it does 500 millibuckets of concrete, and that has 1,000 water. Perfect. If not, it wasn't really a big deal. Because we could just limit how much fluid is coming in here, or do, say, 2 batches of concrete. But yeah, this will work perfectly. This will work perfectly. Okay, so now what we're going to do is, let's set up a tank. And we're going to have this be concrete in. This will be concrete out. And we'll just go ahead and connect all that up. And then let's go ahead and grab ourselves a bucket of concrete if we can. So we'll go ahead and set up the filter for the concrete in, and this will be extracting on the con in blaze S line. Let's go ahead and say that you can extract, it's only going to be liquid concrete. We'll go ahead and turn that back on, and then we'll come down, find our concrete in line. This will be on channel 8. Create that. You can insert concrete into there. So now we're able to make concrete and send it over there. We have one more processing step after that, which we'll get into in just a moment. It's pretty straightforward and just uses a system that we've already got in place. But before we do that, we are going to set up a connector line here. We're going to go ahead and break this open, and we're going to call this concrete. Now this one will be connected up to our XNet system that's over in the create stuff. So, we've got a few of these, and they're kind of working in tandem together to some degree here. So we're going to connect that up. Let me go get the stuff to make concrete, because this is something that we're going to want to stock. And we're going to be using this to stock it. Okay, so channel 4 is the one that we use, the water mixer north, blaze south. I mean, technically we could have that on the same line as this, which is an option. It's just, we're going to have two lines that are used heavily, because I know concrete we're going to be using heavily. Dielectric paste, which is what's primarily made over here, is going to be getting used heavily. So I think I would like to stick with the separate lines. Plus, it kind of works out better anyways, because these 3 mixers are actually directly plugged up to our Pneumaticraft area just as much as they're plugged up to the create area. So yeah, I think I'm going to stick with this method, I do believe. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to have a pipeline that connects here. This is technically the crushing chest. But let's go ahead and put a retrieval and stack limiter into there. And we're going to say that you're retrieving slag, gravel, clay. Stack limit is 128. And then before that starts going, this is channel 6. Let's go ahead and on this line that's blacklisting the brass, let's just go ahead and also blacklist these 3, because we actually don't want to crush those. What we want them to do is just hang out in the chest that they're being sent to right there. And we should be keeping a couple stacks. Of course, I did throw in a little bit extra slag and stuff into this. And then let's go ahead and grab these 3. And we're going to say that channel 6, you're going to be able to insert these in on the concrete line. So you can insert clay, gravel, slag. Okay. And then we should... Let's see. Let's make sure the concrete is extracting. It seems like XNet is only plugging into the first liquid, which would be the water. It's only seeing that. It's not seeing the liquid concrete. Well, what if we did... let me take a look at create. Because we can do the same thing that we do with mechanical belts, where it only outputs the outputtable items. Maybe we can do that with fluids. If we use the... What's it called? Yeah, I think it's the item drain that does the fluids from the... Yeah, you can see it's already dumped the liquid concrete out. Perfect. And then once it fills up, it's just going to hang out. So all we have to do then is just attach a red connector in there. And then we'll just bring this over. This is the problem with doing all my XNet stuff in one color. But that's okay. It's too late to change colors on it now, but we'll run this up. And then what we can do is basically just change this over. So instead of extracting concrete on this one, we're going to be extracting concrete on this one. We can get rid of this line here. And then we should say concrete's gone up to 3.5 buckets. And you can see it's pouring in there. So now we are consistently just crafting liquid concrete. And we want to keep some liquid concrete on hand because it is used in a few recipes a little bit later on. It's just good to have. And then what we're going to do is we're going to check the top one. This is the same one that we're inserting on. This is the concrete inline. We're going to go ahead and make a channel on 6. And we're going to say it's going to be a sensor. And we're going to say fluid is greater than... Well, actually, we'll just say fluid is equal to 32000. And if so, then you're going to output on this nasty green color, because I'm not using that for anything. And then what we're going to do is the south side of ConN Blaze S here. We're going to create an output. It's going to be enabled on this nasty color. We're going to say the output is going to be, it doesn't really matter, 15 is fine. So output 15 into that block if that color is up. Okay, so it's going to keep running the mixer until this fills up, and then it's going to shut off the mixer, basically stopping our concrete production at that point. And then beyond that, it's just going to keep on crafting concrete until that fills up. Okay, and then let me go ahead and get another fluid encapsulator real quick. And what we're going to do is we're just going to put a connector in here. We're going to say this is going to be the concrete line. Drop in a fluid encapsulator. Let's go ahead. Say you in and out the bottom. And then right here, let's go ahead and copy this channel. We're going to put that in. And we're going to say that you are going to be extracting... we don't have to put a filter, but we will. You're going to be extracting concrete from concrete out. You're going to be inserting that concrete here on channel 7. And then all we have to do is drop down for the, let's see, this one's doing the etching acid. This one here, we're going to say insert, and max amount's going to be 1. Because I've only got 1 bucket floating around in there. And then let's go ahead and paste that in with the max amount 1. And then I want to basically just grab the extraction for sheets and then copy that over, but I want to be inserting the buckets of concrete, or extracting the buckets of concrete. And then if we go up to the heat frame line that's right here, I just want to add in bucket of concrete into that. Then let's see, this is extracting on color white. This one we're going to change this over to color light blue. And I'll probably need to throw in an extra bucket here, and then a bucket here as well, because it'll look at this and say, well, technically there's a bucket in there, and so we want to have 2 buckets in the system at this point, so these can cycle around and end up coming back to this point where they have 1 empty bucket and 1 filled bucket. And then right here we're going to say that you can extract, in addition, you can extract concrete, and then you'll be able to insert that concrete right here. So we can start pumping that out. And then let's go ahead and set up the Corporea Crystal Cube. So comparator coming out right there. And this one will be set up basically the same as the rest of these. Probably going to set it up like the block of crystallized chorus, maybe? Yeah, probably. Because we're going to be using a lot of this concrete here very, very soon. So let's go ahead. The chorus reed. This is looking at anything below 12. Let's go ahead and grab that. We'll do it as the concrete reed. And let me find that light blue line. There we go. So if it is less than 12, you can emit right there. So we should start seeing concrete going up here soon once I re-enable processing on this line. And then the bucket should get recycled back around. There it is. And then this one is still just hanging out. That's perfect. I'll have to put an upgrade in this. Not really a big rush for us, but we will have to add one. And then we should start seeing here pretty quickly concrete blocks going up. There we go. There's 1. There's 10. Suddenly jumped on me there. This is the singles. I'll just go ahead and throw concrete in there. So we are now producing concrete. The next thing that we are going to do is we're going to turn our attention to blaze fiber. This does require... This stuff's super easy. We have this stuff on farm, but it does require blazing blood, which we haven't touched on. I think blazing blood comes up a little bit here and there in some other stuff too. We're going to be keeping it stocked, though I think this will be our primary use for it. Yeah, I mean, there's, like I said, there's some other stuff that comes up, like if we want stone generator upgrades, or whenever we do destructive wheel. If we don't go with the ritual method, I don't know if it's disabled. Honestly, we'll probably just farm all of it. It's so easy to do with regular blood magic method. But anyways, we are going to need to get ourselves blazing blood. And we can, of course, get this with blazes when they take damage in a smeltery. Now, we haven't actually done Tinker's Constructs yet, but that's what I have all these seared bricks for. And out of curiosity, is there a quest line here for Tinkers? There is. Looks like we got to make a bunch of books. Of course, we haven't really done a whole lot with Tinkers, and I don't really have a whole lot of plans for Tinkers, but this is fine. Let's go ahead and just request some grout. And we're going to need to make, just to get the quest caught up, there's the Puny Smelting Book. There is the Mighty Smelting Book. Oh yeah, and then Pattern. Okay, so there's those quests done. And that's going to get us that. Common Tinker Box, Epic Tinker Box. Ingot of molten copper, ingot of molten refined glowstone. Okay. And then they want us to get the Smeltery Controller. Now, I think we actually have to go through the Seared Melter first. So let me just get a bunch of grout. That. Our system already knows how to make this stuff, so not that worried about it. And then to get the Seared Melter, let's take a look here. We are going to need to get ourselves a seared faucet, a seared fuel tank. We're going to need the seared heater. I can't see my screen. Okay, we're going to need the... No, that's disabled and expert. Well, we're going to need the seared casting table and the seared basin. And that quest is done. What do we get? Some Molten Tinker's Bronze. I don't know that I'll ever use those things, but Smeltery Controller. I guess what we're going to have to do, since we can't get the melter, is melt the copper and then pour it over a seared heater. And that would be fine. Now they are going to want... And they are going to want the Seared Drain and the Seared Chute. Now, we're not actually... Well, I'll hold on to it for right now, but we're not actually going to be using the Seared Chute at all. And then they want us to get some seared glass. We're actually going to be using quite a bit of this. So let's go ahead. There's a little bit of it. Now, let me go ahead and order up some more seared bricks. We'll go ahead and order up 2 stacks of it. Let's see. To do the Smeltery Controller, that's going to be 4 units of copper. Okay, now we've got a magma crucible over here, but it's kind of tied up. Let me just make another one. Okay, so there's our magma crucible. Go ahead and grab that. And we'll just set this up right in here for right now. And we'll just throw in our copper, get that smelted down. And then to make the Smeltery Controller, that's going to be seared heater in a casting basin. And let's see, we should just be able to do it this way, I believe. Drop that into there. There's our copper. Let's go ahead and say that you can output there, and we can just pour that out through the side of the magma crucible. Give that a second, and then we will have our Smeltery Controller. There we go. And we got a bunch of quests completed. And what do we get? We got a Scorched Lantern with Molten Infused Iron. Okay, now there's a bunch of quests in here. That's probably about as far as we're going to be going with Tinkers. Like, seriously? It's just the bare bones. But we'll clean these up at some point, these quests. And then looks like we completed a gate there. And we did complete these quests here. Now we still have to do the foundry for this tab. And then I think that'll be it for this tab. But now we have that. Let's go ahead and we're going to be setting up a smeltery. I may have to order some more seared bricks because this will be pretty decent size. But we're going to come in. So we'll have something like that. Honestly, I think the controller I will probably just put on the side, in fact. Yeah, over here. And then we'll have the fluid. Actually, let's move it over by a block. And we'll have the fluid output be, you know, off to the side somewhere. And I'm probably going to build it up too high for, like, actual smeltery, I do believe. And then I'll pull away some of this wall here. Okay, I got our smeltery set up. Now, we're only going to be using 2 layers of this. I'm not going to use these upper layers. They're just decorative. But what we're going to do is we're going to take our Seared Drain. And we're just going to put this in right here. And once we seal this up, you'll see that the smeltery is a valid multi-block. And let's see, the blaze spawner that we've got. Let's see what spawner modification is in this pack. Is that 1 in each hand? This is nifty. This is all changed. Ignore players is Spectre Eye and Token of Joy. This will probably be one of the only spawners that we actually run in this pack. Because we're just not... We're not using a whole lot of spawners. So this needs to be main hand. This needs to be off hand. I've never seen a pack change the Apotheosis spawners. And I actually love it. Adding a switch. Okay. So now it's going to require redstone to actually run. Let's go ahead and break that off. Let's just put redstone on top of it. And then we'll have the connector setting right there. And we're going to call this Blaze Spawner. And then, I guess technically I can just facade this in. And we're going to put a connector in right here as well. This is going to be called Blaze Blood. It'll be the only seared drain that we're connecting to. Now, technically, there are the filter drains. We're not going to use those because we're only going to be handling basically one liquid with this once everything's all said and done. Okay, so we'll just run that over. And once again, this will be connected up to our pneumatic craft area. So, now let's take a look real quick at spawners, because there's a couple other things that we're going to want. First up, I mean, we could boost the speed. I'm really not that worried about speed, but what I would like it to do is ignore players. So we'll need a Spectre Charm, or a Spectre Eye, for this. Okay, so we want this to ignore players. And then the other thing we're going to want to do is decrease the radius. So for this, we're going to be using Token of Sorrow and a Glyph of AoE. I think we're going to need 2, because I think it's -1 to the radius per, right? -1 spawn range. Yeah, and that's 1 in every direction. Though technically they would be spawning into the wall. There we go. We'll do 1. Spawn range is 3. So we'll see if they're spawning outside with this, and if they are, then we'll decrease the spawn range by 1 more. So we'll see how it goes. And then let me go ahead and facade this. And I'm going to go ahead and facade these. And I'll get that one here in just a moment. Okay, so now what we're going to do, before we get started, we have a little bit of setup to do to actually start killing our blazes. And we've got a liquid hopper, that'll be fine. And let's actually break off this for just a moment. And let's do the liquid hopper there. And let's just put in bucket of lava. That's going to put lava down there. And then we'll pull that up and put our blaze bloodline back on. Okay, so now what we're going to do is, let's go ahead and set up the redstone over here. And the way we're going to do this is we're going to have a connector put in right here. We're going to call this Blaze Blood In. And then, of course, as per usual, down here we're going to have Blaze Blood Out. And we'll go ahead and run up some tanks. Connect those up. And we're going to say that there's going to be a sensor, Blaze Blood In. We're going to set up a sensor line here. And this is going to be fluid. We want it, in this case, we want it to be greater than 28,000. Because this one's going to fluctuate a little bit with the way that it works. So let's say if it's greater than 28,000, then you're going to emit on color yellow. And I'm sorry, not greater than. We want it to be less than 28,000. We want it to emit on color yellow. And then we're going to go over to Blaze Spawner. And we're going to create an output on the color yellow. The redstone can be 1 is fine. And you can output. So we should start seeing blazes spawning here in just a moment. Like I said, we may need to boost the speed. It may not be a big deal with it being on a server. Honestly, I don't think it's going to be a big deal because, you know, it doesn't require that we be nearby. And of course, we're going to get, in terms of blaze blood, we are going to get 20 millibuckets for every heart of damage that's dealt. You know what? This might require that there be lava in this. Yeah, there we go. So now we're producing blaze blood. Perfect. And you can see that building up in there. Now I'm going to let this build up to probably 1,000 millibuckets should be fine. Now let me get, actually, this is just going to be a temporary thing. It's just going to make it a little bit easier for us to set this up. Let me go ahead and order a Seared Drain. And let me go ahead and snap this off. we've got a bucket's worth in here, and that'll be enough for us to configure some things. Let's go ahead and break off this right here. We'll put the Seared Drain in right there. Let me grab a faucet. And honestly, I'll probably just leave this here. Honestly. And let's go ahead, switch this over so the blazing blood is on the bottom. Let's take our bucket and go ahead and pour that out. And there we go. There is our bucket of blazing blood. And at this point, just because I'd rather do this with blazing blood, let's go ahead and break this. We'll set that up. And since we do need a fuel inside of this, honestly, I couldn't remember if we did or not. We're going to go ahead and put a connector onto the seared fuel tank. Okay, so now what we're going to do is let's come over the blaze blood right here. We're going to be extracting on channel 7, should be good. So we're going to say that you can extract. It's going to be specifically blaze blood, and we're going to keep at least 1 millibucket in the fluid tank. You only need a minimum of 1 millibucket. It doesn't really matter, and it doesn't really change the damage based on how much you have. So just keep 1 millibucket. That's fine. You can extract the rest of it. Now you're going to be inserting here blaze blood. It's going to be a priority of, let's say 1,000. That's fine. Just a big priority. So you can insert, because we're going to be using that as the fuel as well going into this. Now it doesn't use a lot of fuel. We're going to get a lot more bang for our buck. So that'll be fine. And then all we have to do is find our blaze blood inline. And we're going to say that you can insert here blaze blood. So let's come back over. This has already been emptied out. I do have to slip back here. This is our seared drain. Let's go ahead and set up our liquid hopper one last time. And we're going to pump in the blazing blood into there. Just to kind of jumpstart this system. Because I want it to be exclusively blaze blood over here once this lava runs out. So there we go. We got blaze blood in there. Oh yeah, I need to turn on processing on this line again. But let's go ahead, drop the redstone into there. Like I said, we could do speed. I don't know if speed is that important. Plus, I know a lot of the speed stuff was disabled. Not all of it, but a lot of it. We'll take a look at it here in just a moment, though. Channel 7, go ahead and enable processing. So we should say, there we go, blaze blood coming into here. We have 1.2 buckets. Sounds like it must already be getting us some blaze blood at the moment. And we should have 1 millibucket of blazing blood left in the system. Perfect. And then I can just close this back up. There we go. And if we take a look, we're getting 20 millibuckets every time it takes damage. Okay, now let's take a look at the spawner real quick, because I could add some more upgrades to this. I mean, plus spawn count would be good. Max entities, not so much, but spawn count would be good. And minimum spawn delay would be good. So I may add some of that to it here in just a little bit. But it is worth noting that this will build up fairly quickly. And then we're going to go ahead from here. Let's find our blazing blood out, which is right here. We're going to go ahead and turn off 8 for just a moment. We're going to say that you can extract from here. And then let me grab a bucket of this blazing blood. Because we're going to say that the blaze S would be this line here. You can insert on channel 8 blazing blood. And we'll turn that back on. And then let's go ahead and get ourselves some mage bloom fibers, some shadow berries, some ditch bulb. Because we're going to go ahead and set up the recipes for the fibers. That way we can just order them. Now right now liquid chorus is still kind of building up because I set a pretty high threshold for the blocks of crystallized chorus, but those should be stopping fairly soon. And while we're at it, we should go ahead and set up the end fiber. Let me get my crystal chorus. That's coming in on channel 7. So let's go ahead and paste that into there. Start getting liquid chorus. Now it's going to be a minute before I have liquid chorus, you know, because I'm still building up a threshold of it. Honestly, I'm probably going to change this chorus read over to 10, because that's going to be 8 stacks. That's going to shut that off, so it quits eating up all my liquid chorus, because I have a bunch of it right now. I have an absolute ton of it, and that should be fine. Because I had it going up to 32 stacks. Yeah, 32 stacks. It's probably overkill. I may bump it up later, but I know I'm going to be wanting some end fiber down the road, so I want to build up some thresholds of that. Probably this gold chest. This is the retrieve line chest, but the stuff that we're going to be doing through this is not used anywhere else. So we're actually going to do it through here. We're going to say that blaze fiber, you can make this if you send it to Mage Bloom and Ditch Bulb, and then we're going to say that end fiber, you can do that if you send it to blaze fiber and a shadow berry. And then all we have to do is set up on the, this is the blaze blood line. We're going to say that you can insert specifically Ditch Bulb Mage Bloom fiber. And then you can insert specifically Shadowberry, and you'll be able to do the blazing fiber here momentarily. And we'll just go ahead and re-enable this line. And we'll go ahead and throw that in there. And I'm assuming that already got made. Let me check, because it's automatically pumping out. Yeah, it made blaze fibers. Okay. So I'm just going to add those into the filter. Of course, like I said, we don't have the liquid chorus just yet, but we will. So we'll just let that kind of build up. At least I don't think we have the liquid chorus that we're going to need. No, I've got 150 millibuckets. That's going to have to basically stockpile for a little bit, but the recipes will be configured. So that's the most important part. Okay. So at this point, blaze fiber and end fiber, both automated. We can't order the end fiber just yet, but we will be able to soon enough. So now what we're going to do is we're going to drop in a recipe here. And the very first thing we're going to be doing is teaching our system how to make leaded concrete. So there's how you make that. And then I also want to teach it how to make, by the way, having all these already set up and ready to go, super, super handy. I also want to teach it how to make pity machine frames. So there's how you make that. And you know, something strange that I never taught it how to make for whatever reason. I had a bunch and then I just kept crafting them manually for some reason. I have never taught my system how to make andesite casings. So there's how you make those. Because I remember running into that before. So let me see. Mechanical components, though. I don't think my system knows how to make them because we don't have the automated engineer's workbench just yet. We're going to have to get that. But I do have a few, and I'll make up a batch of them at some point. But let me go ahead and order our very first pity machine frame. So we're going to do this recipe right here. Super easy, super cheap to make. There you go. You can make leaded concrete now. Congratulations. The andesite casings. There you go. There's how you make those. Let me go ahead and grab this. Just so it finishes up that quest. And then that's how you make pity machine frames. There you go. And there was our very first pity machine frame. Because now that we have the pity machine frame, we can order ourselves a fluid collector. Oh, that's right. No. Not in fact. We're going to order ourselves. We're actually going to be automating this pretty soon, but I think I could be wrong, but I think I need the engineer stuff to make the advanced blast furnace, and that's the only reason I haven't automated the blast furnace just yet, because I'd rather automate the good one. Technically, there's the arc furnace. We might. It's just not used for that much. I don't know if it's really going to be necessary, but I didn't realize I had this over here. But to get the plastic sheets for industrial foregoing, we just run dry rubber with coal coke. in here. So we're going to go ahead and get that. Okay, so there is our fluid collector. If we take a look at glycerol, it takes vegetable oil and it takes ethanol. This is the, if you recall a few episodes back, I mentioned that we were going to be pulling some of that vegetable oil out. You know, in addition to the bees, we're going to be using it elsewhere. And this is the other place that we're going to be using it. And then we also need ethanol. And we're going to be going with the Pneumaticraft ethanol, which requires yeast culture. Either sugar or apples are really the best for this. But yeast culture, there's actually a few different ways that we can make this. We can make this through Thermo-Pneumatic, 1,000 millibuckets of water, and then any kind of mushroom makes us a measly 250 millibuckets. It's not that great. Also, PCBs can do it if they hit water, which is cool, but we're actually going to be using the in-world yeast production method, which requires that we have basically a bucket of water and some sugar, basically. And the way this works is when the water gets placed, it will create the yeast. It'll basically duplicate the yeast. So what we're going to do, first and foremost, let's go ahead and break off this. Let's put a connector in here. I will have to make a little bit of yeast to get started, but that's fine. We'll get to that in just a moment. But we're going to call this sugar for yeast. And then we're going to put in a factory dropper just sitting right here. We're going to have the speed up, single, ignore redstone. And then if it was to get that, where does it toss it? Well, if I didn't have my magnet ring on, where does it toss it? Right to there. Let me actually drop this slightly because it's kind of going to the block border. Let me actually just drop it all the way. There we go. That drops it right in the middle. Where it was dropping originally would be fine, probably. But I want it to drop kind of just in the middle, just to be safe. Just, there shouldn't be any variation, but just in case there is, I want to play it a little bit safe there. And then let's go ahead and break this away. Break this away. Let me get 2 sandstone stairs. We'll put these in here. And then we're going to put in a piston sitting right there. Let's go ahead and peel some of this away. Let's see, do I want to do the redstone with XNet? Or, I think I want to stick with like vanilla redstone for this, to be honest. Let's see, for the redstone, let's go ahead and just run this out like so, and put our torch in right there. Just to go ahead and fire that up. And actually, let's go ahead and do our adjustable repeater in right there. And we're going to set this up to, let me see something. What's the default speed? I'm not going to worry about speed upgrades in this. It should be fine. I think it's 5 seconds for the fluid collector. Yeah, it's 5 seconds for the fluid collector. So we're going to set this up to something that gives it just a little bit of leeway. Let's go with like 7 seconds. Should be fine. Because this is basically going to slow down the redstone basically for the piston changeover, because I want to make sure that the fluid collector has time to collect our yeast culture in the world before the piston goes out and destroys it. You know, I don't mind it destroying water. It's going to be basically just destroying water or flowing yeast. We shouldn't have flowing yeast, I don't think. I think if we have the stairs here, they should set up the water faster than the yeast flows over. But we'll see. If we have to make some adjustments, we will. But hopefully that'll be fine in terms of the redstone. And I think that'll be it on that end of things. I'll leave this open just so you guys can see it, though. And then over here, let's go ahead and break this open. we are going to put in an industrial infrared entity detector. Now, actually, I want to go with the laser one for this, and that's basically just because the way the volume works on this one is different. So we're going to go with the laser. Sensor range, we're going to drop this down. We only want to check a block ahead. Entity threshold is 1, that's fine. Entity type, we're going to change this to be objects, and power 15 is fine. Right there's my entity detector, yeah. And that should be good. And that's pretty much going to be our yeast setup. I am going to have to get a couple buckets of water real quick. Then, oh yeah, and then we're going to need the fluid collector. Let me release this piston for a moment. Actually, I won't have to, I don't think. Let's go ahead, place that there. Yeah, nozzle is facing up. That's perfect. And this should have a range of only 1 block. If we tell this to show working area, yeah, you can see it only looks at this block right here. What's it take for us to make our first bits of yeast? Thermo-Pneumatic, a little bit of mushrooms, room temperature, no pressure or anything like that. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and make, this is actually, oh, but that only makes 250. Yeah, it does. Okay, that's fine. Let's go ahead and just set up our Thermo-Pneumatic processing plant here. Ideally, to start, I would like 2 buckets. Now, to be fair, we have enough mushrooms. We wouldn't have to do a nifty little setup like this. It's just more fun than just running mushrooms that we have infinite of with water, which is infinite, through a room temperature thing that takes no pressure. It's just kind of boring. So the setup that we're going to be going with is just going to be a bit more fun for us. I'm going to need 8 buckets of water to make 2 buckets of yeast culture. We're going to be saving a lot on water, because actually this method is dirt cheap. 1 sugar and a bucket of water makes a bucket of yeast culture. So, okay, now while we're waiting on that, let's go ahead and grab ourselves some sugar. And we're going to be doing a bit with sugar for this, so I want to go ahead and add it into the stocking that's over here. So go ahead and keep sugar on hand. Oh, and something I just realized, I never set up the redstone for these. I'm just going to go ahead, and basically all I want you to do is sensor item greater than 1 emit on blue. And then we'll just copy this, paste it over, and this one is going to be gray. There we go. I'm sorry, less than 1. Because we want to shut off whenever there's no items in there. And then you'll be able to output a redstone value of 1. Okay, so our yeast culture is done. Go ahead and grab that. And we're going to dump in a bucket right into there, as well as a bucket right into there. And then I'm going to need to actually supply this with power. So we'll just go ahead and attach a connector. We'll call this yeast culture. Let's go ahead and copy that. We're going to start feeding power into this. There we go. It gets collected. That's perfect. Let me go ahead now and re-enable this redstone so that it throws out the piston. Oh, and actually, since we're doing a little bit with Pneumaticraft, we do get an epic loot box for getting yeast culture, which gave us volume upgrades. I'll definitely put those to use. And then Amadron tablet, we get some Amadron survey tools. But let's go ahead. We're going to set up a line here, and we're going to call this Yeast in. Then we'll go ahead and set up another one here as per usual. We're going to call this one Yeast out, because I do want to stockpile this just because we've got a lot of fluids. Why not? Why not add a bunch more fluids to it? Pneumaticraft's kind of like the hub of a lot of our fluids anyways. There's so many fluids related to Pneumaticraft that we've been going through, so might as well. And we have our fluid trash can just kind of tucked away in here. Okay, so for our yeast, let's go ahead. We're going to set up an extract line. The yeast in should be on 7. So let's go ahead and create that. So you can take yeast in, and then we're going to have yeast out on 8. So we should be all set. And then what we're going to do is set that up. And then we're just going to set up this is a sugar for yeast line. And this will be coming in from here. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up an insert line here. This is going to be enabled on the color bright red. And we're going to say that you can insert to the sugar for yeast line. And we're going to say max amount in destination inventory. I don't want to go too crazy with it. Let's say 4 is the max amount. Or honestly, better yet, why go that crazy? Just go 2. Now the sensor here for this is enabled on red. And what we're going to do is say that the yeast in line, we're going to put in a sensor here and say that if the fluid is less than 30,000. Okay, you can emit on red. What I want to do for the yeast culture, because right now we're not extracting that yeast culture. Yeast in is on channel 7. Okay, so what we're going to do is for the yeast culture, this will be on channel 7. You're going to be extracting, and of course we don't have to filter that, but we're going to say keep 1 millibucket in that, which is going to be the yeast culture. Though honestly, how much do we use of yeast culture per operation? 100 millibuckets, just to keep our numbers balanced. Let's say 100 millibuckets in there, and then we'll just go ahead and turn that back on, and we'll turn that back on, and then we should be good to go. We should start seeing the yeast or the sugar is going to get dropped in here. So there goes a piece. And what happens is this detector says, hey, there's a piece of sugar in there. So it shuts off this. It takes a second for the system to start up, just to make sure everything's in place. Then what happens is when the water goes in, that basically activates the sugar and turns that water then into yeast. And then this can run. Now, technically, later on, we can make speed upgrades for this just so it collects a little bit faster. But for right now, this should be fine. Do we need to slow this down? Maybe. Let's slow it down to 5 seconds. Because, I mean, it's only, yeah, let's actually, 5 seconds would be perfect in all actuality for this. Because that way it matches up with the speed that this can actually collect stuff. No reason for me to be dropping sugar excessively fast or anything. And it's just going to keep producing yeast for us until this backs up. So, super easy. And like I said, we're just going to glass this over. Most important thing here is just the industrial linear laser entity detector. Because it's what's detecting the fallen items. So, and basically powering this whole system. So, alright, so we have yeast production going. And it's so much more efficient than the super slow mushrooms. Because they're so slow. And then I can just pretty much cover up all of that and then have like this T shape and then put glass over the top. So much fun with fluids in this room. I love it. So many fluid things going on. Okay, so now that we have yeast, what we need to do is we need to start producing ethanol with our yeast, which is just the yeast culture and sugar. Room temperature. We don't need anything. We don't need heating or cooling. You know, maybe, I really don't think even cold climates, because I'm at like one of the hottest climates and I'm still within that range of 30 to 60 degrees Celsius. So I think you should be fine. Let's go ahead. So what we're going to do is just run up a connector there. Don't want you to connect on the downside, just the upside. And we'll call this one ethanol. Let me grab our yeast in. Let me copy that. Go to our ethanol. That was on 7. Yes, it was. So in this, we're going to go 8 for this one. So you can insert yeast culture. And we should see that going into there. That's perfect. And then also, you'll be able to insert sugar. And this will be on channel 1. You can insert sugar. And just keep, I don't know, 10 in there. Don't worry about filling it up. And that should be good. So we should see this start running. And this is going to produce our ethanol. There we go. And I'm gonna let it build up a bucket. Actually, technically I could just do that. And you can see that we are getting ethanol now. So we'll go ahead and just dump that into there. That's perfect. And then all we have to do is start producing the glycerol as well as the biodiesel, which is a really good fuel source. We can use it for compression dynamos, 10 million RF. We can also use it for the Pneumaticraft liquid compressors as well as a pretty good fuel source as well. And we'll go ahead and set up the Biodiesel End Tank first. And to make the actual biodiesel, it just requires a little bit of pressure to be sent into a fluid mixer, along with the vegetable oil and the ethanol. So let me go ahead and grab a bucket of this. There we go. Looks like we're completing a few quests here. Going to get a couple epic loot boxes with advanced PCBs and speed upgrades. Speed upgrade not going to be terribly useful to us because these are cheap. These are about to be cheap, and then lubricant, you know, and that makes 4 of them. But we'll go ahead and put in the fluid mixer right there. The fluid mixer, we are going to be, so channel 8, I want to be inserting ethanol. And what's the limit on these? 16,000 millibuckets. Yeah, let's say just keep 8,000 in there of the ethanol. Veggie oil, that's also on 8. Okay, so I'll do the second connector because I'm going to be having 3 fluids moving through this, so kind of have to do 2 connectors without adding more fluid channels. And we'll just do Gly plus Biode up for this one. Be this one here. Let's go ahead and say you can insert the vegetable oil. And 8,000 is fine. Okay, so now what we should see happening, that going in, ethanol goes in. Let's go ahead and dump that in. And now we're starting to produce biodiesel, and we're getting that glycerol. So let's go ahead and grab our biodiesel at this point. Go to our biode inline. Let's set this to channel 7. We're going to create biodiesel going in. There we go. And then we're going to go ahead and set up on channel 7 extraction for biodiesel as well. Go ahead and turn that on. You can see we've got 250 millibuckets. Go ahead and dump that in. And then all we have to do is just plug up the rest of this and wrench it all together. Alright, so now we're producing that biodiesel as well. Now we're also producing this glycerol. So we do need to add up item extraction for this. So we'll just have this be on channel 3. Go ahead and say that you can extract stack glycerol once every 60 seconds, or 60 ticks is fine. Honestly, once every like 100 ticks is fine. So you can extract those and send them out into the big wide world. And it means glycerol is now getting produced for us. How much concrete do we actually have at the moment? 925 concrete. Awesome. Not to mention we have a bunch of blazing blood. Let's go check. We're out of molten plastic, but it'll build up. It's not a big deal. Yeast culture, our system should be stopping here soon. And yeah, biodiesel, it's going to take a while. We're going to have a lot of glycerol come next episode. And probably a lot of speed upgrades too. But I want to check on our blaze system. Is it still just churning away beautifully? It is. No blazes in there at the moment, but you can see this is backed up with blazing blood. It's prioritizing that for sending the blazing blood out, which is awesome. So, yeah. Everything is just kind of kicking along and building up these nice big stockpiles for us. And we expanded on our liquids a lot today. But anyways, with that, I know it's wrapping up point for this episode. And like I said, this kind of wraps up our sort of like just a lot of like little miscellaneous automation projects that we've had. A lot of quick, easy things. We do still have a few, which we're going to get into here pretty soon. But this is a big bulk of them for this pack. So I wanted to get these knocked out because a lot of these tie into some of the progression that we're going to be doing here soon. And we really need glycerol for speed upgrades because our stuff was painfully slow. We will be able to get this as well, but it's going to take a little while for me to get a bucket of biodiesel. No, it isn't. I've already got them. Let's go ahead and do that real quick before we wrap it up. There we go. Legendary box. We got a printed circuit board, some smart chests. I think some volume upgrades. Nothing too crazy, but I mean, we've pretty much got all of Enigmatica for the most part automated at this point, so there's not a whole lot that can come from that that's too crazy for us at this point. But anyways, with that, we're going to wrap up. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. If you did, as always, be sure and hit that like button and go ahead and subscribe if you're not already to stay updated with when new videos come out. And I hope to see you guys next time. So until then, as always, do take care, stay safe. I'll see you guys then.